Today's lesson is called Why You Won't Find Purple on National Flags. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
And I am Roger. Today we're talking about national flags and colors. If you look at those little charts, sometimes you see in atlases or whatever, you'll see a lot of pictures of national flags. But have you ever wondered why you never find the color purple on those national flags? I've never really wondered that myself, but my goodness, I'm looking at a chart right now, and I don't see a lot of purple there. It's a good question.
That is a good question. And another question that comes to mind right now, is purple the only color that you won't find on national flags? Or are there other colors that are not included on national flags for whatever reason? These are good questions that we need to think about. But let's focus on the color purple for now. Why is purple not found on national flags? That is the question of the day. That's the question that we will be exploring in our lesson. So folks, let's get to it. Let's go ahead and take a short break. And then when we come back, we'll start learning why you won't find purple on national flags.
Why you won't find purple on national flags. There are more than 190 countries in the world today, each with its own unique national flag. These flags come in an array of vibrant colors and creative designs, but have you ever noticed that almost none of them use the color purple?
大家好，今天第一个单字我们看到的是 vibrant， 这个字当作形容词，代表色彩鲜艳的或是光线明亮的意思。例如 The photograph captured the vibrant colors of the tulip fields. 这张照片捕捉到了郁金香花田鲜明的色彩。
Okay, everybody, let's talk about the first part of our lesson for today. We are trying to ask this question, hey, why don't we find purple on national flags? Well, we're going to try to answer this question and tell you why you won't find purple on national flags. So here's the first paragraph. It sort of introduces the topic to us. It says there are more than 190 countries in the world today, and each of these countries has its own unique national flag. So yes, there are more than 190 countries in the world, in South America, Africa, Asia, and the Americas and Europe and stuff like that. Of course, they've all got their own flags. They're all unique. They're all special and stuff like that. And indeed, you probably memorized some of them. You know what your own national flag looks like, and the flags of others, you can probably easily identify them.
There you go. These flags come in an array of vibrant colors and creative designs. But have you ever noticed that almost none of them use the color purple? And I have to answer this question right now for myself. I have to be honest. The answer is no. I have never noticed this, but now you've got me thinking. Purple can't be found on national flags for the most part. Are there other colors too that for some reason or another aren't included on national flags? Interesting questions, like I said before, but let's focus on the color purple. Why is this the case? Well, before we can get to the bottom of this, we've got a couple of things that we need to talk about. First of all, we've got the word array. An array is a collection or a set of things. Very simply, an array of something is a series of things that is often arranged in an impressive way. Yes, an array is a set of things that has been arranged. There you have it. Then we also have the word vibrant to talk about. If something is vibrant, it is full of life, so to speak. Yeah, the adjective vibrant describes something that is strong and lively and vital and beautiful and maybe even colorful. Now, while we're on the subject of colors and flags, purple apparently is a no-no for the most part. I would like to say something right now. The colors red, white, and blue seem to be on a lot of flags everywhere. So can we retire the colors red, white, and blue and maybe use purple more often?
You might be able to do that, but I'm sure you'd have trouble convincing the French of that, or
the Russians,
the Dutch, or the Russians, or the Americans, or
the
whoever.
Taiwanese.
Indeed. Yeah,
Puerto Ricans.
Some other countries as well, Cuba as well as red, white, and blue. All these flags seem to have red, white, and blue. But in any case here, we are saying that these flags do come in a variety of colors, a range of different colors, especially if you look at the flags of, say, Africa or of various Asian countries. They do come in a range or an array of really lively, vibrant colors and also some very creative designs. But here's the question we've been asking all along. Have you ever noticed that almost none of them use the color purple? Interesting question. Some of you might be saying, big deal. Who cares about that? But still, it's an interesting question, and it all has to do with color pigments and stuff like that. And the answer is actually quite fascinating. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's go on to the next part of our lesson. We'll read it first.
Purple has long been associated with royalty, power, and wealth. So why is it not used to represent nations? The reason for this comes down to practicality. Before the 19th century, the color purple was simply too expensive. The first purple dye was made from a rare sea snail, and 10,000 of these snails were needed to produce just 1 gram of the dye. Thus, purple dye was literally worth its weight, or more, in gold. Only the wealthiest rulers could wear purple clothing, and no country could afford to make all of its flags using the hue.
第二部分我们看到的单字是 royalty， 这个字当作名词，它有王室或是王室成员的意思。所以我们可以说 In the past, certain foods were only allowed to be eaten by the country's royalty. 古时候特定的食物只有王室能食用。接下来我们看到的单字是 dye， 这个字当作名词，它有染料的意思。所以我们可以说 The company uses only natural dyes for its product. 该公司的产品只使用天然染料。再来我们看到的单字是 literally， 这个字当作副词，代表照字面意思的或是确实的不加夸张的意思。例如 Sam translated the sentence literally, so it sounds weird. Sam 照字面上的意思去翻译这个句子，所以句子听起来不通顺。
Purple has long been associated with royalty, power, and wealth. Now, that being said, you would think that kings and queens then, when they would construct flags, they would definitely use the color purple. After all, purple's associated with royalty, power, and wealth. Why would they not put purple on their flags then? Well, the answer, it boils down to practicality, but more on that a little bit later. For now, let's talk about a couple of things to be found in this first sentence. The sentence, purple has been long associated with royalty, power, and wealth. Now, if something is associated with another thing, it is linked to that thing, it's linked with that thing, it's connected with that thing, it's been associated or has been associated with that thing, I should say. And here it says that purple has long been associated with royalties. When people think of royalty, they think of the color purple, apparently, and vice versa. Now, what is royalty? When we're talking about royalty, we're talking about royal people. We're talking about noble people. We're talking about blue bloods. We're talking about people who are related to kings and queens.
Royalty, indeed, that's the noun. Royal is the adjective. The royal family, for example. Purple has been connected to the royal family, or it has been associated with royalty for a very long, long time. So why is it not used to represent nations? Yes, people like purple, and queens love to have purple in their gowns and stuff like that. So why not use it in the flags? Why is this color not used to represent nations or countries? Well, the reason for this comes down to practicality. So it comes down to this. In other words, in a simple way, we can answer this question. It's because of practical reasons. Practicality, of course, is a noun here. It just refers to when things are practical, okay? It's just basically down to some facts, okay? The reason they don't use purple is because of some simple logic.
There you go. Practicality is the state of something being practical. Practical is the adjective, and the word practical describes something that is useful or which has real-world applications. Practical things are sensible and useful. Further, if something is practical, it actually helps us out, or it actually does some job. It's much, much more than just an idea or a concept. Anyways, here the idea that we're talking about here, it boils down to practicality. Yeah, why is purple not used to represent nations? Well, the idea isn't far-flung or abstract or anything like that. Everything comes down to or boils down to or can be reduced to practicality. There's a practical reason behind all of this. Now, what is that reason? Well, get this. Before the 19th century, the color purple was simply too expensive. Yes, royalty, powerful people, wealthy people, they had purple garments because they could afford them. Everyone else, though, sorry, you're out of luck. The color purple was simply too expensive. So these rich people, royal people, they could afford to wear purple garments, let's say. But let's say you're going to make flags, and many of them. You can't mass produce a purple flag because, yes, the color purple would be way too expensive. It all comes down to dye.
Die, right, which does not mean to pass away, to no longer live. This is a different spelling here, D-Y-E, dye. It can be both a noun and a verb. You can dye your clothes different colors, for example, if you're using the word dye as a verb. But here, we're using it as a noun. It's just some kind of substance that comes from nature, or it can be artificial, and you use it to add color to something or to change the color of something. So ladies or guys, if you want to change the color of your hair, you're going to use some dye. If you want to dye your hair purple, then you'll use purple dye or red dye or green dye or whatever it is you want. And so the first purple dye was made from a rare sea snail, one that's kind of hard to find.
Yes, and get this. 10,000 of these snails were needed to produce just 1 gram of the dye. So if you don't have a lot of snails, you're not going to have a lot of dye. And if you don't have a lot of money, you're not going to be able to get 10,000 rare sea snails. And if you want to mass produce a flag, you're going to think, maybe I'm going to pick a dye or an ink that's more readily available and more affordable than purple dye or purple ink. After all, there aren't many of these rare sea snails around. That's what the word rare means after all, and they're already expensive for this reason. So I'm going to rethink this purple flag thing and perhaps use colors that are more easily obtainable and affordable too. Anyways, the next sentence says, thus purple dye was literally worth its weight or more in gold. It was just that expensive. Now, we've got 2 things to talk about in this sentence. First of all, we've got the adverb literally to talk about. The word literally means in a literal sense. That is, when you're saying something in a literal way, you're saying that thing directly and without exaggeration. And further, the opposite of the word literally is figuratively.
Right, and oftentimes people emphasize things and they exaggerate. Wow, there's 1 million people in the square right now. That's probably an exaggeration. How could there possibly be 1 million people there? But hey, if they've come down to watch the fireworks on New Year's Eve, there could literally be 1 million people right outside your door. There could be really that many people. So here we're saying the purple dye was literally worth its weight in gold, which means if the purple dye weighed 20 pounds, then it was actually worth 20 pounds of gold. It was that valuable at that particular time. And only the wealthiest rulers could wear purple clothing, and no country could afford to make all its flags using the hue. So, of course, the royalty, of course, certainly wanted to have purple in their clothing. They were certainly more than willing to show off the amount of money they had. So, of course, they loved wearing purple clothing. But if you have to manufacture hundreds of flags to fly in the air around your country, you're probably going to think twice about that. You probably don't want to spend that kind of money on a purple dye for all those flags flying in the breeze.
Okay, before we take a break, let's talk about the word hue, H-U-E. Everyone, a hue is a color, but to be specific here, usually when we're talking about a hue, we're talking about a shade of a color, like light blue as opposed to just simple blue, or sky blue as opposed to simple blue. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a break right now, but when we return, we'll be wrapping up our article on purple flags.
This changed in 1856 when British chemist William Henry Perkin stumbled upon a way to create a synthetic purple dye. Following this, purple dye was mass-produced and became much more accessible. Seeing that most national flags were designed before this, few of them include purple. However, some flags created post-1856 have experimented with the color. Just look at the flags of Dominica and Nicaragua. No longer restricted to the rich, purple can now be seen on flags and enjoyed by everyone.
第三部分我们看到的单字是 chemist， 这个字当作名词，它有化学家的意思。例如 Laura 想成为化学家并在药厂工作，英文可以这么说 Laura wants to become a chemist and work for a drug company。 今天最后一个单字我们看到的是 stumble， 这个字当作动词，它有偶然发现、撞见的意思。例如 While cleaning out an old desk, Matt stumbled upon grandfather's manuscript。整理旧书桌时 Matt 意外发现祖父的手稿。
Okay, so up to now, we've learned that the reason flags are not purple is because the dye is simply too expensive. At least it was in the past. Now, this changed in the year 1856 when British chemist William Henry Perkin stumbled upon a way to create a synthetic purple dye. So before 1856, purple dye was only available from a rare sea snail, but that changed because we had a British chemist working in a laboratory, and he stumbled upon a way to make this synthetic purple dye. If he stumbled upon a way, that means he kind of discovered it by accident. He was probably doing various experiments in the laboratory, and he made a discovery by accident. He thought, if I put this chemical together with this chemical here, hey, I've got this purple dye. It's synthetic, it's not natural, but it still does the job.
There you go, synthetic. Not natural or artificial or fake in the sense that it's not really found in nature, though it's like something found in nature. Anyways, this dye was made by a human being in a lab trying to copy something found in nature. It was made by this chemist and not by God. Anyways, let's talk about this guy. William Henry Perkin, okay? He was a chemist. Now, chemistry is the study of the substances, these chemical substances, I should say, that make up our world. Now, an expert in this field or a person who works in this field is known as or is called a chemist. That's all there is to it. Anyways, following this discovery, purple dye was mass-produced and became much more accessible. So, from this point forward, from 1856 or the year 1856 and on, purple flags began to exist or came into existence.
Indeed. So it was mass-produced. It became more accessible. People could buy it at bargain prices. They could dye their clothes purple. They could even make their own flags purple if they so desired. And seeing that most national flags were designed before this, few of them include purple. So that's nice. Now that we've got purple dye, we can have purple national flags, but most countries already have their flags set up, and they don't need a new flag. And besides, introducing a new color is kind of radical. You know, flags are kind of traditional. It's very difficult to get people to accept changes in national flags. So that's probably why you don't see purple in flags. Although, hey, you might see purple in provincial flags or things like that.
Yeah. Old flags are going to stay the way that they are. After all, you don't change your flag. But hey, new countries who need new flags or new countries that need new flags, they can now use purple. How about that? So seeing that most national flags were designed long ago, few of them include purple. There's the answer to the question. However, some flags created post or after 1856 have experimented with the color. Just look at the flags of Dominica and Nicaragua. Apparently, there is purple or purple is featured in the flags for these countries. How about that?
How about that next time you go to either of those countries? Check out their flags and you'll be amazed how good purple looks on those flags. Maybe you could consider including purple in a future version of your own country's flag. Who knows? Now, no longer restricted to the rich, purple can now be seen on flags and enjoyed by everyone. And purple, of course, is a common color, so purple is here to stay. And now it's affordable thanks to the efforts of that British chemist way back in 1856. That brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分一开始提到 This changed in 1856 when British chemist William Henry Perkin stumbled upon a way to create a synthetic purple dye. 这样的情况在1856年有了改变。当时英国化学家威廉·亨利·铂金无意间发现制造人造紫色染料的方法。好，这个句子里面的 when 它是当关系副词，它就相当于 in which。那这是用来引导关系子句去补充说明先行词1856。由于1856它是明确的时间，不用限定范围，所以它是非限定用法。when 的前面有加上逗号。好，另外帮同学们补充的是动词 stumble 的用法。stumble 有很多意思哦，像是绊倒、快要跌倒，或者是人家说的踉跄，像你喝酒啊、走路歪斜不稳的那个状态，或者是 stumble 用来指结结巴巴的说话。不过这个字呢，在课文里面它是指偶然发现或是撞见。当这个意思来解释的时候 stumble 它是不及物用法，后面常常会搭配介系词 across或者是 on 或者是 upon 再加上名词，去表达说在没有预期的情况下，你无意间发现或是得知了某事物。那这时候它的意思就跟 come across 或者是 run across 差不多。例如 They stumbled upon a beautiful lake on their way to the town. 在他们前往那个城镇的路上，偶然发现一座美丽的湖泊。再造个例句I stumbled across this camera at a flea market. 我在一个跳蚤市场里面偶然发现这台相机。好，同样在课文第3部分有一个句子是 Seeing that most national flags were designed before this, few of them include purple. 由于大部分的国旗都是在这之前设计的，它们之中几乎没有用到紫色。那这边要介绍的句型是Seeing that 主词加动词，逗号主词加动词。好，那这表示由于怎么样，既然怎么样。Seeing that 它跟 since 或者是 now that 意思相近，它们都是连接词，用来连接表示原因的副词子句。好，那它们连接的这个子句内容呢，往往是对方已经知道的原因或者是讯息。那当我们用 seeing that 来连接子句的时候，这个 that 可以省略不用。例如There's no point in discussing this, seeing that you've already made your decision. 既然你都已经做好决定，那讨论这件事情也没什么意义啦。好，那以上是今天的重点整理，我们接着来回顾今天的单字吧。
Vibrant. Unlike the rest of the hospital, the children's zone was painted a vibrant green. Royalty. The nation's royalty held a dinner for their most important citizens. Dye.I use blonde hair dye once a month to lighten my hair. Literally. There are literally thousands of papers to sort through. It'll take all night. Chemist. Marie's cousin is a chemist who works in a drug testing lab. Stumble. We stumbled across a fantastic restaurant while visiting my parents.
Discussion Starter starts now!
All right, folks, now it's time for our discussion starter. Roger, what is the most interesting thing you learned in this article?
I thought it was interesting that a rare kind of sea snail was used to create purple dye back in the old days. It makes me wonder what other kinds of natural ingredients were used to produce various colors for flags, clothes, and things like that. How about you?
I was surprised that flags, for the most part, don't feature the color purple. I had no idea that this was the case. So I guess the old saying is true. Yes, you do learn a new thing every day. Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.